Off you go.
Hello. This-
Hello.
I thought this morning when I was sitting in the car that you and I have these amazing conversations in between, and I think it's a really good opportunity to share it with others. I think in the last 2 weeks we've had these chats while I walk the dog, and it's quite intriguing. And we always have like one topic that we sort of contemplate and sort of think about. And so I thought, yeah, it's what is it? And then came up Anne Marie and me.
And it's quite funny, isn't it? Because we tend to like have these things where we kind of stop each other in our tracks, don't we? It's like, oh, we can be quite blunt with each other, I think.
Exactly. And then so it was just like Anne Marie and me, because that's if I would explain that to someone, what we do, it's just Anne Marie and me on the phone, yeah. And so this morning when I woke up really early, I had the question sort of came up, what is memory? Because that's what your work and my work, and if you say your world or my world connects as this memory, yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Definitely, yeah. Well, I
so
think
I
we're kind of connected on shared. Um, I think we find it easy to be authentic and vulnerable with each other, don't we? And we have connected on shared memories of childhood and things like that.
exactly.
And it's both very, very different childhoods and very, very similar ones at the same time, isn't it?
Mm.
And we
Mm.
swapped a lot of memories backwards and forwards.
Exactly, and we still do. And then, you work with memory in a different sense that I work with memory with my clients. And so that was just, the question, what I asked myself this morning, what is actually memory? What's the definition of memory? Is it is it some is it a chemical reaction in the brain, or is it an emotion? But can we have emotions without the chemical reaction of the brain? Is it also a chemical reaction, or is it more than that? So you know me, I can go off on a tangent on those
Mhm.
things. But I just want to what the actual where is it? The definition of memory, as I saw it here, is memory refers to psychological processes of acquiring, storing, retaining, and later retrieving information.
Right.
It involves three processes: encoding, that reminded me of you, storage, and retrieval. So that's just one of the many, many definitions. And then it went on, and this is where I sort of want to connect with you on this conversation, is that we spend so much time in our memory, and it's usually the bad memories that pop up quick and that sort of, stick with us for a long time. So we spend so much time in memory. And I have the sense, well, that's what I had, that sort of diverted myself and sort of distracted myself with dealing with the here and now. So I could just go back into memories, and that was something that I was comfortable in and all that. But if we spend so much time with memory, why are so little people taking care of the brain that creates those memories? Because
Mm.
that's what I deal with. I deal with a
Yeah.
lot of people that just say, oh, I people who want to sort of dodge dementia, or are at the beginning of the dementia journey, or are living with a person with dementia. they ra- they there's often so little willingness to support the brain on its to become better, or to just cope better. Yes, so there was just a weird thought that we spend so much time in memory and in our past, and yet when you ask someone who is on the verge of losing parts of their memories, change your diet, change your change your lifestyle. No.
Mm.
And so that's where I sat this morning.
To me, I think a lot of it is fear, isn't it? It's like if I do something about it, that makes it real. It's like
Mm.
it's like if I accept that this is happening to me, then there's pressure on me to do something about that, and I'm afraid of change. And if I make those changes, what happens then? It's so many people. There's all, like you said, there's like the memories are churning around the mind and all of that, but they don't share that that's what's going on in their mind with other people. So they're having this whole internal thing that is torturing them, I think, sometimes. Um, Whereas as if they were sharing and dealing with it, they'd be getting some diffusing of that thing going on. So I think people are almost afraid to share, aren't they? Because does that make me seem weak? If somebody else knows, does that make it more real? Again, it's that thing of what will be expected of me next. So many people just don't lean into, sometimes you have to lean into the pain and what's painful, don't you? That would be kind of my initial thought about it anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, just from my point of view, how many years and how many hours and months and painful moments did I spend going back into my memory? Yeah.
Mhm.
So it had a real purpose, and I felt almost comfortable in it. And so, but I also realized that, how do I say? If I want to continue to, and also the nice moments, there are also beautiful memories. So if I want to keep those, then I have to, take care of my brain a bit more,
Mhm. Yeah.
and
And I
I
think
also,
and I think some of
since I
that is
picked this,
letting that pressure out and talking about it, isn't it? Not forcing your brain to deal with it all on its own, in a way.
and it's the talking, but it's also, fueling, nourishing it the way it likes to be nourished, so it's like
Mhm.
it can function high, getting that sleep in, getting that exercise in, and all that. So there's such simple things which make such a huge difference. I mean, we both work with people, and the brain, and I just by drinking enough fluids every day, water, it makes such a difference in the brain fog
Yeah,
and in
oh,
the
definitely.
memory and
Yeah.
the capacity. And it just really blows my mind to think that we are so dependent on this brain and also on memory. I'm going on a hike tomorrow. God, will I remember how to do the trail? I
Mhm.
can't remember. So, I'm like, I can't access that memory at the moment. Not at all. Yeah.
But that's where
Um,
your muscle memory will come in, won't it? That'll
yeah.
save the day for you. But I do think um people resist doing healthy things, don't they? I mean, you and I, although we're clearly not perfect, we do go at it in a very proactive way. If something is wrong with me, or if I'm not feeling happy, I'm not feeling joyful, what do I need to do about that? But so many people don't. And so many people live in fear of what's happening to them or what might happen to them. And they're using things like self-medicating with things, aren't they? Like alcohol, like your sweet stuff, like whatever it is, smoking, whatever. And that is the way that they're managing the day, or they're coping. That is their coping strategy. So for somebody to come along and say, you do realize that's the first thing you're going to have to give up. A lot of people do fight that, don't they? They fight that idea of letting go of the thing that actually might be harming the brain as well.
Yeah, yeah, because they rather have the pain that they know
Mm-hmm.
than the unknown pain, And it just this morning it was mind-boggling for me that I also thought if you look at the ICU, so my brain just went in all directions as it does, my little ADHD brain. Um, when you're in the hospital in the ICU, they will keep your body functioning and they will put in the highest effort as long as you have brain activity.
Mm-hmm.
If you have no longer brain activity, then the question is, do we switch off the rest of the machinery?
Mm.
So even there, it's all about the brain.
Yeah.
Is the brain still functioning? Then we will continue to try to, save this person or bring him back to life, into a functional life. But if there is no brain function, one is considered brain dead,
Yeah.
then the advice often comes, to switch off the machines and let people pass on. So even there, it makes it explicit. Without the brain, there is no life.
Yeah. Well, the body
Even
is kind of the vehicle of sending the messages from the brain, isn't it, really? It's like if brain's struggling, it's like, oh, we'll give that to body, let body show that somehow, isn't it?
Exactly.
No, this
Exactly.
little person that I'm in control of clearly isn't listening to me. Let's do something to this body and they'll soon notice, isn't it?
Exactly. Exactly.
Force the body to get somebody's attention, isn't it, sometimes?
So the body can remind the brain, or the brain the functioning brain, listen, you've got to address something. Anxiety, for instance. For me, anxiety is always like a reminder. There's something that wants to be addressed. There's something that wants to be seen. There's something that, you should really have a look at, because, you're not getting it up here. So your body is reacting. So yeah, I just find it fascinating. I often ask people what's so scary is, and then they often say, because the brain, you can't see it. If somebody has, I don't know, a broken bone, or, diseases that are visible, then I find that they're almost more willing to step up their game. For instance, when you have Parkinson's and you have that tremor, that's visible. The walking patterns are visible.
And you're sort of feeling embarrassed about it, aren't you, out in public as well? I think you're definitely right there, that people find the brain this mysterious thing, and they do feel like it's something that they have no control of. They feel like things like anxiety, like depression, like I have no control over that. That's something I was born with. I've always been like that. They don't think about the brain as in terms of something that they do have say over or control over.
On the physical level, but also on, I mean, you and I met over a simple little mindset call. It was just a simple little mindset. And, then to realize and to feel that you can, with your bad thoughts and your negative thoughts and, your sort of monkey mind, that you can spiral yourself down, which is almost like that everybody's capable of that. Yes. But there then comes a point where, well, if I can spiral myself down, surely I can spiral myself up. But that means, again, you've got to sort of do it yourself, and no outside. I think the downward spiral for me was triggered by the outside a lot. Yeah. Downward spiral for me is often triggered by the outside, that I react on with this downward spiral. The upward spiral is just me. I've got from the inside out, because I got to control those fucked up thoughts that constantly sort of knock in, And that's for me an interesting, well, that's just how I see it at the moment, or that's sort of, yeah.
I mean, we just, I think that part of the thing is as well, we buy into this idea, don't we, that, or a lot of people do, and that's what I see in my work. When I was a kid and I was struggling, I'd had like parental emotional neglect, if you like, and I knew there was a problem by the time I was 4 years old, but it didn't really flag up to anybody else until I was 12, and I developed school phobia. But nobody really addressed what the cause of it was. It was just like, the first thing is that you have to go to a psychiatrist or psychologist, whatever it is. So straight away you're told it's this chemical imbalance in my brain. And once everybody around you has a diagnosis to lock onto, it's like, well, that's how it is. This is how it is. She's going to need medication. And it kind of takes away that responsibility anybody has of figuring out what's wrong with the whole family. You become the point of focus that everybody can. It's like that thing of there's always has to be somebody that the problem latches onto. And instead of people looking at you and thinking of you, this is the red flag, there's something in a broader sense not right. They think, oh, thank God, there's the faulty one. I'm all right. If there's a faulty one, isn't it? I must be, you know what I mean? They don't, and that's kind of what happened to me. And then I bought into the whole thing of it and thought, this is how I am then. If that's what I'm being told by medical professionals, it must be right.
You were reduced to only that.
Yeah, and then you waste decades. That's what happens. You waste decades because you believe people, and you've got people telling you that your brain's faulty or your feelings aren't real or whatever it is. So you give over control of your brain basically to this faulty belief, basically. And that chemical imbalance in your brain thing, that theory behind depression, that has never ever been proved. There's no actual proof of it. It can't be disproved because there was never proof of it.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I've sometimes, often, most of the time, have it with my dementia patients that it's so easy. Oh, mom has dementia, yeah, period. So that mother is reduced to only being the woman with dementia, yeah. But that the outside can create a better environment for that human being to live with that cognitive decline and with the dementia. No, it's mom. It's all about the patient. It's all about that person.
Mm-hmm.
And I often remind them it's that person who's already struggling anyway, yeah? And it's not all about them and their disease. The contribution is from all around as well. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say now in the cause, but that's a big subject. That's a tricky subject to address, yeah? The causes. But in the managing and in the how to go forward in a good way, everybody around, not just the one person. And that one person doesn't want to just be reduced to the dementia person. Like, I'm sure you didn't want to be reduced, you didn't ask to be reduced to, oh, that's our problem child. Yeah, she's got school phobia. And I mean, people might not understand, but school phobia is not just, oh, I've got a phobia at school. It's a
wider thing, a much wider thing.
Much wider thing. But the support is also much wider. And it's almost like, oh, it's easy just to, that's the one. That's the fault in our system. That's in German you say Schwarze Peter, which means you can't say it's not politically correct anymore.
Somebody German will be watching this. They'll put a comment below that says, I don't know what this is.
And there's no longer politically correct. But we still use those. And
can I ask you, Nadja, when you have these initial chats with family, and it's like maybe the initial stages of when people are figuring out that dementia is a factor, do you ever get families that say, right, we must get as much information, as many memories as we can from this person before we lose them? Or do they straight away tend to put them in the role of being the patient, being the problem, and it becomes about the managing of it?
No, there are you will know this term. It's my soul clients, my absolute favorite clients, yeah, are the ones that are they sort of embrace the whole journey. And there's amazing memories that come up when I remember the things that my grandfather used to tell me. He had dementia, and the memories, that his long-term memory was so fascinating. Yes. Mm-hmm. So I spent hours on end just talking to him and asking him, and I regret that I didn't do more of that, because back then I wasn't so aware of it. Yeah. With my father, who had dementia, it was unfortunately he lost his speech quite quickly. And that was so frustrating for us all. But I always say it's such an opportunity, because then you can actually do the work that you should have done all your life. So mm-hmm. Find out, who was I raised by, actually, who is this person? And we can use those memories that you write down later on, yeah, mm-hmm. with the pictures, the senses, what they loved eating, their stories and all that. A memory comes up now for me. I had a client in Austria. They put her into because it's such a good thing, therapy, which was supported by animals. So once a week, this woman came in with a whole car full of animals, from bunnies to cats to dogs to guinea pigs. Anyway, she came with all her animals into the therapy room, and then we brought people that apparently is going to do them good. So this woman always freaked out completely. She started screaming. She didn't want to go there. And then I was like, well, the doctor said, no, she was brought up on a farm. This is what she needs to create memory. Okay. So I think after about session 4 or 5, I went back. I said, listen, we're going backwards. We're not going forwards. This is not. Anyway, so we had to sort of get the family in and do this sort of detective work like you also do. We just do it in a detected her. We found out that she was actually taken away from her parents and brought in during the war, and brought to, those kids,
Yeah.
were brought to the countryside to be kept safe. But there she was not abused, but she had to work as a child on a farm.
Yeah, you're instantly plunged into that adult role that you're
Exactly.
not
So for
meant
her, that
to
was
be
that.
involved,
There
yeah.
were great stories about this concept back then, but her story was that she hated it on the farm. So
Mhm.
now with her cognitive decline, you know, first thing was, oh, therapy with animals is good for everybody. No,
Yeah, yeah.
not if you have that negative or that traumatizing memory. So it took us, I don't know how long it took us, but it took us a while to realize that. And so um I think it's really essential to get as much information as possible. Like you also, the more information you have, the easier or the smoother it runs. And
Yeah, because it's that thing of people do tend to, even when they come for therapy, they tend to try and gloss over the worst of it at times, or not give you, or they don't like to like my family don't like me talking about what went on in our family because they would rather, but they would rather it wasn't known. They would rather gloss over it, pretend that everything is okay. And a lot of clients do come to me. Well, you know yourself when we first did some work, and you said you had this. Don't want to give away too much of your personal life, but you wanted to live here for 6 months, there for 6 months, and there was a person in your life. So your recording that we made for you was geared around that. And then a few days later, you're like, can we take that out? It's like, because we do tend to do that thing of we feel guilty if we don't think about someone the way we think we should
we
think
should, yeah.
about the mother, father, grandparent, brother, sister, whoever it is. We're so drilled into us to be respectful and responsible and make everything look okay to the outside world. And that's what happened to me as a child. Is because nobody wanted to make out that there was a fault in the family or whatever you want to call it. Then I became very isolated, and every time I had dealings with anybody, I had to pretend that nobody asked me about school. I don't think they dared to. And it's like, so I have to kind of just pretend to be normal. And it made me not be able to talk to people because I felt like I was having to white lie all the time as well. It was really toxic.
Yeah, and there's always nice parts to dementia. And just remind that those sort of facades that you just spoke about, those of the mask that you had to put on, they tend to often, most of the time, sort of fall away. So they become completely unmasked.
Yeah.
And I remember my grandfather, we were sitting in the circus. And my gran there, and my mom was there. I don't know who else, but I was there. So I said, gee, Opa, when's the last time you went to the circus? How nice is this? And all that. And he just looked at me. He goes, I've got a circus at home every day. And my grandmother sort of, but that was his perception. And finally he could say it, and I remember my dad also sort of retrieving himself back into his office because then nobody talked to him. Then he didn't have to talk, and then he was just in his little bubble. So all these sort of masks just fall away, which is really difficult for the families, and it's really difficult. I mean, I didn't have, but I think the more we live without those masks now,
Yeah.
I mean, you and I
Well,
have never met.
it saves you so much time, doesn't it? You just cut straight through the bullshit. And yes, you might hurt somebody's feelings in the short term, but it's like when we have conversations and it makes us like stop and think. It's so valuable, isn't it? It's so funny what you said. I mean, when my mum was dying and she had cancer, she had some lesions in her brain. And although she didn't have dementia or anything like that, it wasn't clear what that was affecting in any way. And I think it was just that, like you said, that facade fell away. And her and my eldest sister had always kind of butted heads a lot. And, she kind of, my eldest sister was doing her best to placate my mother or be a good carer while, it was her day to look after mum. And she was trying to persuade my mum to have an ice lolly because she hadn't eaten anything. And my mum goes, "You can just shove that ice lolly up your backside, basically." Now, she would have never, ever, ever said that to my sister because you knew the repercussions would have been so heavy, and not talking for weeks, months, years. And my sister never apologizes for anything. So, but it was like, I don't fucking care anymore. I'm just going to say what I'm going to say. And she was so tickled about it afterwards as well. And I guess you get to see a lot of that people just say what they're going to say.
I think you also have to feel safe. You and I have never met in person.
Mm-hmm.
We have we've created this friendship online, and still there we have such a safe space that you and I can share. Well, I've shared pretty much my deepest, darkest.
But
and
I think we're both
it's nice that
emotionally
we can.
intelligent and honest enough to do that, aren't we? And we know who is safe to do that with too.
And it creates that space that we can access memories, or I actually through through the work that I've done with you, I feel safe enough to access those memories,
Mm-hmm.
the bad ones. But with that comes that I have access to these amazing good memories that have been completely blanked out as well,
Yeah.
because I think our brains don't just go, oh, we're just going to blank out the bad memories. Yeah. No, it blanks out complete packages of time,
Yeah, and that's the same
And
with your antidepressants and things that people get hooked
exactly,
on. You're not just numbing one emotion, you're
exactly.
knocking out a whole load out. Well, same as like if you take an antibiotic, you're not just knocking out the bad bugs, you're wiping out your good bugs too. It's the same, isn't it?
And also when you just said, sort of dropping the facade, it's also, yeah, so I'm sort of halfway in my life, I hope,
Mhm.
54, turning soon, and all this menopause and all that. And with menopause comes a lot of brain fog, yeah. And so loss in memory, short term, and it comes back again. But also there, I find the more you learn about yourself and step into your true self and sort of become more comfortable and all that, you can also there drop the facades. You can sort of, who gives a shit what people think? I mean, I still do. I don't actually, but I do have to have to be careful not to tread too deep sometimes, just to
I
make
think
myself.
I think you stop worrying about it so much
Yeah,
afterwards is the difference, isn't it?
yeah.
It doesn't like you think, oh God, but give yourself like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, it's like done and gone, isn't it? It's like,
Hmm.
well, I did it. It is the past, can't do anything about it now. It might be
That's a
useful in
rewiring.
yeah,
You would call it a rewiring. Then that's how
yeah.
I tell my friends, because I have noticed. And what did you do? And I said, well, I'm still the same, but my brain has just been rewired. And that's I mean, the neuroplasticity, so
Mhm.
the brain, I just, going back to where we started, for me, if I don't take care of any other part of my body, I, for me the priority becomes more and more the brain. Yeah,
Oh God, yeah, it is by far the most important thing, isn't it? Because
in
it
all senses, in
it's like I kind of mentioned to you when I was young and going through those times. It crossed my mind numerous times. Because I think that kind of age was when I first got aware of my mum getting older. My mum was like, felt like the only support I had really. And even that was quite tentative. It wasn't always a guarantee. And I was often quite afraid of my mum at times because she could be quite harsh, but very, very loving on the backside of it. So it was a complex relationship. So at that time when I was going through this and really struggling and really feeling vulnerable and like I had no support and what would happen if mum died or anything like that, I kind of remember going through a period where I used to really worry if what if I do get dementia or something when I'm older and I'm stuck in these memories of this terror I feel right now and this fear. What if my old age looks like that, like being trapped in this prison in my mind, in my brain?
and I think that's why it's so important. I mean, you know, you and I have spoken about it. My close friends, I remind, and they remind me too. It's not just that I kick their ass, they kick my ass too. You know, deal with your shit while you can.
Mhm.
Get yourself in a good space, physically, mentally, emotionally, on a soul level, you know, dive into that heart as much as you can, because we don't know, you know, how, even if you don't get dementia, I mean, you know, there's a lot of other shit, or maybe get nothing, just die
Mm.
of old age. But I always say, you know, I wanna die in the sense of rest and digest. When I see people pass over, I always say there's two types of passing. The one is fight and flight, where they go
Mm.
and
Yeah.
then they go, or the people that are at peace and are rest and digest, they take an inhale and then they take an exhale
Mm.
and then they pass over, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's, I think
It's
that's,
almost like the difference between leaving life as a human being and leaving life as a spiritual being, almost, isn't it?
yeah. So, and all that happens in the brain, in our memories. And yeah, I think this is a real, I think I'm going to be sitting with this for over the weekend.
Mhm.
And I'm really grateful that you and I decided spontaneously 2 days ago to start having these conversations.
Yeah.
Um, and we had no plan for this, which is
No,
also,
it's not. We didn't really. We're both kind. I think we're both kind. I mean, I'm quite. I mean, I work a lot on myself emotionally, spiritually, but I'm a Capricorn, and I think there's a lot of logic and reasoning, and I like to be prepared and I like to plan. But when it comes to these things, I kind of can't get my head around the planning. I just want to just do it. I don't want to think about it or plan it. I want, yeah, it's different when
it
it
just
comes to
comes.
something like this.
And this morning I thought, you know, oh God, what are we going to talk about? Should I write down some questions? And then just sits literally sitting in the car, it just sort of came. Oh, I was like, shit, you know, what does it actually mean to have memory? You know, why, what can we, how can we support each other? And the brain, again, coming back to the brain,
I
without the
think it's
brain,
like you
we can't
say,
function.
isn't it? It's like it's on us all. We have this personal accountability to do to say, I have power here. I do have power. I'm not a powerless thing. The world isn't happening to me. Life isn't happening to me. And I find, I mean, I'm very early days. I decided to start doing a course in miracles, a lesson every day.
Hmm. Oh,
And
wonderful. Yeah.
yeah, but just the
Great.
more, and it ties in with everything else, even what I learned
Yes.
about hypnotherapy, the more hypnotherapy techniques I take on board, and the more I learn about the subconscious mind and the power of that, and how we're all connected, and how it's only the left side of your mind that tells you you're an individual and that you're on your own in this and all of that. I've lost my train of thought a little bit now, but yeah, but what I find is that now I keep getting random memories from childhood that I haven't thought about in decades. Like
Oh,
just
interesting.
yesterday,
Yeah.
I put a post in my group I'd suddenly remembered listening to these stories on cassette as a child that me and mum listened to again and again, that my naughty little sister it was. And I haven't thought of that in God knows how long, maybe 30 years or so at least, you know.
Incredible.
But it's as if the more you clear out the crap, like you said earlier, the goods, you'll get flashes of the good, won't you?
Yeah. And I think that's, I mean, we can, maybe we should have that for the next conversation. I think that's what the old folk sort of said, you know, that you're at peace with your life,
Mm-hmm.
that there is no regrets, and that you have made amends and you have made peace. I think that's what sort of resonates. I think that's one of the things that's fascinated me when I started working with the elderly, is that approach, you know, and I didn't quite understand what they meant. When I was young, when I started sort of getting interested in this world, I think I was 30 or something. It was bloody ages ago. And I thought, what are they talking about? You know, I'm at peace. Fuck no, man. You're in the shit show. You're in the middle of the tsunami. Ain't no much peace here. So, you know, you sort of realize, and then I think that's exactly what you said, you know, become more aware, deal with your shit, and then you shovel the shit out, and you've got all this space for, to create also amazing memories, you know. I think you and I spoke yesterday that shit still happens around, but it's the way, you know, it just sometimes just goes past and we just say, oh, well, you know, that's what just happened now.
Yeah,
Just,
you kind of um just sit with the idea of, is this meaningful or does it not mean anything really? You know, do I really need to worry about whether somebody took that the wrong way or they think a certain way about me or whatever it is, or is that anything I can do anything about? And if it can't, well then fine, fair enough, isn't it really? You know what I mean?
so I think for me, what comes to close the circle is that even our conversation today without the brain, no go, you know, with so the I think I'm going to really spend more and more time sort of encouraging people to really take care of the brain, you know.
Mhm.
The body we can sort of crutch, you know, you can use crutches, you can have wheelchair, there's all, you can have hip replacement, knee replacement, you can
God, you can
replace
be
almost
pretty much fully bionic these days, can't you?
replace, I think probably everything, yeah. They've done whole face transplants,
Mhm.
but brain transplant, if that thing, if that little thing up there, and it's tiny, you know, I mean, it's, I've held one once. It's
Mhm.
tiny, you know, it's not much, there's not much there. And yeah, so I think that's going to be my sort of lots of takes from this conversation, but
Well, we might, you never know, we might have more of a specific theme next time. Or, but I mean, I think this has been good anyway, especially for a starting point, hasn't it?
yeah. So we'll see each other again in this space, Anne-Marie and me.
See what comes of it. And you never know, one day down the line, we might get people asking us to talk about a specific thing. Because, like you say, we're both kind of, you from your perspective and me from my perspective as somebody that works with the subconscious mind on figuring out the why people feel the way they do, and then rewiring them and giving them how they want to feel now. Um,
And
and
we're nice and raw, and we're nice and honest, and we can
yeah,
think
and
about,
we're not precious about what happened to us, and I think we both admit fault, don't we?
yeah. Okay.
All right, I will
Okay.
close this down then. See you later.
Later. Bye.
Bye.